Hello, and welcome back to
The Hot Pot. I'm Princess May, aka the Princess.
And I'm Tracy, aka the DJ.
We're in Zoom boxes right now, but Tracy and I actually had the opportunity to meet in person for the first time. We gathered together to honor health equity champions at Health Forum's annual Health Equity Awards.
Yes, and we'd like to congratulate this year's HEA awardees, and we have some exclusive footage with our recipients. Up first, we have Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who was bestowed the Policymaker Award for her long-standing work advocating for health equity and allyship and advocacy with Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities.
Congresswoman Barbara Lee has spent her entire life as a relentless pioneer and advocate.
And every issue intersects with race and income inequality. And so we're trying to really look at legislation and funding priorities in the context of what will lift people out of poverty.
From her time as a student activist to community advocate, business owner, and as Congresswoman representing California for over 20 years, she has never stopped fighting for the underserved and marginalized communities.
Put the street heat, as I call it, on to make sure elected officials are accountable to an agenda that's an American agenda that raises people out of poverty and ensures that we begin to close the racial and economic gap.
As co-chair of the KPAC Healthcare Task Force, Congresswoman Lee has been an instrumental voice in fighting for improved care and health equity for AA and NHPI communities. Her support for the Health Equity and Accountability Act has shone a light on the needs of AA-NHPI communities for everything from improved language access to data collection disparities.
Our bill is a bold, comprehensive vision for addressing persistent ethnic and racial disparities in healthcare and improving health outcome in communities of color.
Congresswoman Lee is a true pioneer, fighting for accessible and affordable healthcare for all.
Believe me, I know. No one wants to be on food stamps. No one. Everyone wants a good paying job that allows them to provide for their family and contribute to society.
Congresswoman Lee is the epitome of a true public servant and ally to the AA and NHPI communities.
So much of what I have been through really has been reflective of what so many others have gone through in this country. It's not for myself that I've done what I have done, because, everyone deserves the quality of life that this country provides.
Next, we have filmmaker John Osaki, who was awarded the Community Advocate Award for his work to bring awareness to Asian American history and racial justice. Watch this next clip to learn more.
I think the genius of John's work is he understands that racism is not just manifested in the rounding up of Japanese Americans and his own family, but is deeply rooted in the culture of America. And it's based on skin color. And he's been able to illustrate that not only for our own community, but across racial lines to explain current outcomes today. My first encounter with him as a filmmaker was following his family trip pilgrimage to the concentration camp in Tule Lake. John portrayed that in the film and then noted that this kind of period of time when racism, prejudice shouts louder than facts in the Constitution was happening again during the so-called Muslim ban announced by President Trump in 2017. John, you've provided many years of service to the Japanese American community, and now you've used your skills as a filmmaker to be a change agent and a thought leader, in particular on bringing justice in racial relations. Congratulations on your work.
A big part of our history here at Booker T has been our allyship, solidarity, and resistance with the Japanese American community in the Western Addition Fillmore. And a person who exemplifies that resistance, that sense of justice, the fight for equity, is John Osaki. I was proud to work with John on his fantastic and courageous film on reparations as a contributor, and making sure that the story of redress for the Japanese American community and reparations for the African American community, folks knew that history and also had a call to action for moving forward, especially here in San Francisco and California. I'm looking forward to working with John as we continue to fight for justice, equity, and reparations for our community. Our two organizations have a long shared history together for decades, and I look forward to the years to come.
Now we have Asian Pacific Partners for Empowerment, Advocacy, and Leadership, also known as APPEAL, who were honored with the Partner Advocate Award for their work on health equity and racial justice for ANHI communities. Big shout out to Rod and Tana.
From its inception, APPEAL has been focused on addressing a health issue very different from other health issues, and that's commercial tobacco. And the reason for this difference is that commercial tobacco has a multi-billion-dollar industry that actively targets our Asian American communities, our Pacific Islander communities, including Guam, and communities of color and young people. In fact, this product, when used as intended, is the only harmful product for people.
I met Rod about 20 years ago when he first came to Guam in search of people that he could collaborate with through APPEAL, people in the islands who have issues and concerns around tobacco prevention and control. He was always very genuine in his approach to welcoming us to the table and to ensure that what we say about ourselves truly is the voice of our people.
APPEAL has focused on health equity in two ways. One is changing systems, particularly those that are based in institutional racism. And that can be anything from changing how funding is provided to development of programs and whether policies are equity centered or not. The second part of health equity that is important to APPEAL has been building community power. And we have done this through our community leadership program, training over 1,500 fellows from across different communities of color and LGBTQ.
Rod, thank you very much for all the work you did in Minnesota over a 10-year period to build the Leadership and Advocacy Institute to advance Minnesota's parity for priority populations, or LAMP for short. You helped build leadership and capacity and power among 5 communities to advance health equity, to build power, to work cross-culturally in Minnesota. These fellows, almost 100 of them, continue to work in one way or another with each other cross-culturally and to make change in Minnesota.
So building community power has been about investing in individual fellows who be able to impact systems and creating change in their communities. And I'm excited to talk about Tana Lapule, who has started out as an APPEAL Fellow and is a true community leader for the Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders.
Tana exemplifies the type of individual who would receive such an award. And truly in the coalition, the broader coalition of Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, he is a leader to be followed and a leader to instill and encourage leadership development in young people following behind him.
Thank you, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, John Osaki, and APPEAL for creating spaces for our communities. Congratulations again to these amazing leaders.
We also had the chance to hear from other community leaders about what health equity means to them.
Hi everyone,
Today we have Dr. Kamana'o Crab here at the Health Equity Awards. So Dr. Crab, could you introduce yourself, who you are, what you're doing here?
Okay. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Kamana'o Crab. I'm the executive counselor to the CEO and the Health Forum. I'm here as a guest to help present the Policy Community Advocate Award.
Yeah, can you tell us a little more about your work while you were in Hawaii and how you got into your current role?
My previous work was with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I was the CEO. We had a health initiative which was to help reduce chronic diseases among Native Hawaiians. We did some policy, we did some definitely a lot of community outreach and engagement, and I hope to bring my experience here to help benefit the forum in their national reach in improving health equity and justice for Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders across the U.S.
We're here with Rod from Appeal, who's also the recipient of award tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, could you introduce yourself and talk about Appeal a little bit?
Sure, I'm Rod Liu. I'm the Executive Director of Appeal, Asian Pacific Partners for Empowerment, Advocacy, and Leadership. We're a national health justice organization dedicated around things like commercial tobacco and health equity.
Yeah, and we work with Appeal a lot on our different projects.
We're really grateful for that opportunity. It's great working with you all.
Thank you. The feeling's mutual. What does health equity mean to you?
Health equity. Do we have like half an hour for a definition? No, I think it's really important because so many people talk about health equity differently. For us, it's really about systems change and building community power. So if you're not pushing systems, then it may not really be health equity. So the more we can challenge how things are, the more likely we're going to try to accomplish what we're doing.
Yeah, I totally agree. What are you looking forward to tonight?
I'm just looking forward to reconnecting to people that I haven't seen in a while and actually meeting new folks, new connections.
Today we have Dr. Sheldon Ricklin, who's one of our COPA leaders. Dr. Ricklin, who are you? What do you do?
My name is Sheldon Ricklin. I'm a Marshallese Pacific Islander. I'm a family physician by training, but I also work at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences in Northwest Arkansas.
Dr. Ricklin does a lot of work in our communities, definitely a leader to look up to. What does health equity mean to you?
It means that there should be no barriers for everybody to have health, to be healthy, to have access to it, that regardless of where you're from, what your background is, that everybody is entitled to it regardless.
Thank you. And then as kind of advocates, members of the Health Forum, and just community members, how can we be advocates for communities you serve and the overall community?
I think it's important that we know who we're serving as far as people in your community, so you can make sure that whatever issues, obstacles that they face on a daily basis, that they should help each other out to make sure that everybody is still well.
I'm Shao Chi Sim. I'm a board member of the Asian Pacific Islanders Health Forum, and I'm actually from Houston, Texas. I currently work for the Episcopal Health Foundation in Houston.
Great, thanks for joining us. What does health equity mean to you?
Well, health equity really means that we all can start off on an equal footing. That that we are not being kind of like looked differently, discriminated against because of color of our skin or our family background, income level, or whether or not you are immigrant, first generation versus second generation.
And what are you looking forward to tonight?
I'm just looking for an opportunity to be inspired again. I know we are. We're going to have some great speakers or great people that we're going to be honoring from the Health Forum. And also, I think this is a great time to recharge, reconnect, and continue to build on the network, of like a lot of the supporters for this cause.
Erica is definitely a leader in our community, definitely very inspirational. Erica, can you share who you are and what you do?
For sure, thanks, Princess. I'm Erica Moritsugu. I'm one of President Biden's deputy assistants, and I serve as the first ever White House senior liaison to the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities.
Awesome. What does health equity mean to you?
Health equity means to me what America should have always been built on, and the future that we envision and everything that we need to do right now to ensure that there's equitable distribution and access to care, love for our beloved community, and also stripping away some of the institutional kind of systemic things that have held us back, that have, I know that the Health Forum knows that it's mind, body, and soul, and also community and environment, because there are economic impacts, there are definitely health impacts, there are family dynamic impacts, and then there are broader national impacts too when it's taken as a collective. And so by being more intentionally inclusive in how we view equity and making sure that everybody has access to affordable and quality health care, preventative care, and post-care is critical, and it's something that the president is a deep believer in and has been striving for since this first day in office.
Amazing, thank you. You mentioned some of these ways of action, as people, everyday people, how can we continue to advocate for health equity, advocate for, the AA and HPI community?
Yeah, I think that, first of all, lifting up your voice, showing up is the most important first step, but it's not the end of the game. To be aggressively curious, always to be looking around and saying, who's not included here, and bringing them in, but also giving voice to the voiceless. That's one of the things that's so valuable about the Health Forum, in my view, and my observations and experience with y'all, is that, number one, you are advocates. You serve the underserved. You are not just leaders in community, but deep members of community. And those are the things that we need lifted up here in Washington, D.C., is the experience of real people, their lived experience, their joys for sure, and celebrations, but also the challenges and how we can attack those and address them and lift up all communities.
Thanks for joining us today, John, and congratulations on your award tonight.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure, John Osaki. So I am a filmmaker who specializes in social justice film projects. I'm also an executive director of a nonprofit in San Francisco called the Japanese Community Youth Council.
Great, and what does health equity mean to you?
Well, it's really about lifting each other up, making sure that everybody has access to the same resources, the same opportunities, that we're not leaving anybody behind. It's not about advocating for only my community, but it's about bringing everybody along.
We have Tana from Appeal, who is receiving one of our Health Equity Awards. Tana, can you share who you are and what you're doing here?
Sure, my name is Tana Lepule. I'm a community advocate for collectively our Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders. But my blood and my DNA bleeds Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders, so I'm here just as an advocate, continuing the work that started before me.
Awesome. What does health equity mean to you?
Health equity is everybody having the same health access, the same health services. If I see a representative today, I want to tell them I want their kind of health services. So that's equity to me.
Awesome. So as an Asian American leader, as a Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander leader, how can we advocate for health equity and health access?
I think along those lines, we have to get over our own drama. We have to put everything aside and come together as a group. Keep our eye on the prize. We're not going to like everybody. I'm straight up, but we have to stick to the prize, which is, all of our communities coming together and advocating for each other, not only uplifting our own communities, but also all communities.
Definitely, and so excited to have leaders like Tana here today who are continuing to advocate for our A and HPI communities. Thank you, Tana.
Thank you. Boom.
For me, we reach health equity when every person has access to quality healthcare services without barriers.
And to me, health equity means when everyone has an equal opportunity to be healthy regardless of their social, economic, or cultural background.
Now let us know in the comments what health equity means to you.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next month.
It's the Hot Pot Show, don't you know?